The best entrepreneurs often see life as more of a game than the rest of us. So today, we're going to take a deep dive into the mind of a very successful businesswoman. Would you go back in time and learn all the same lessons again?
The last person I gave advice to, she started doing crack cocaine.
You're a phoenix rising from the ashes.
I am a god. I create things, Dylan.
Coffee has a special place in my heart.
We're going to give Dylan something to think about for the next 2 days.
I know where I'm going.
Because space and time are connected.
They were just completely stuck.
The peace and happiness.
I will fight everyone. I would fight them and I would die fighting happily.
Can you explain this concept of seeing life as a game?
Oh, you're going in deep right away, huh?
Yeah.
I think what we need to qualify is like, what do we define as a game, right? Because I think most people's version of a game is like staying up all night and playing like Counter-Strike or something.
Right. That's not the category you're in.
That's not really a game. Like I view it more as like the game of rolling the dice, really the life of chance.
Okay, I see.
You don't know what's going to happen next. And what we're taught is that life is linear and that life has a purpose, and that we know when we wake up that these tendency of things will occur. I will make coffee. I'll get ready for work. I'll put on my suit and tie.
Right,
I'll show up in the office.
Everything.
And everything's a completely controlled and contrived environment. But that in itself is an illusion. The game is real.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Part of winning the game, if there's a winning, but it's really just understanding that there's a set of rules that you don't have to live by. And what winning looks like is figuring out what your internal intuition says and following your own voice rather than someone else's path or story.
I like that.
I agree with you. I think it is a set of social constructs that we say need to be done a certain way. And I would take it one step further. The winning is not even your own intuition. The winning is coming back and realizing that you are God and that I am God. And that where we are right now is that we've already won everything. And we just come back to ourselves in full completion.
Okay, let me go back to the thing of chance. So are you saying that the odds can be changed based on your decisions? Like, do you believe in free will?
I do believe in free will. I also believe that life has a certain cadence and a rhythm that we all sort of bow towards.
But when you talk about something being random, like a slot machine, you do think that's out of your control? Or do you think that there is a way for you to always get the outcome you want?
I think it's a mixture of both. You know, it's like, what do they say? Opportunity is...
preparation and luck?
Yeah.
The thing? Yeah.
It's similar to that, where we have some free will and we also have, unfortunately, you know, it's the idea that the universe is both dual and non-dual, right? At one point, we're all one thing coming together and we have been one thing, and another portion, we're all separate beings. And it's like the confluence of those two disparate ideas coming together is who we are as human beings.
So, this might be a little bit off topic, but if you took a rocket ship up and just went straight, do you think space would go on for infinity, or do you think you'd eventually wrap around and come back to Earth?
Well, some of the theories is that space is there's a outer limit to space. Like it is when itself its own bubble, because it's just one thing that's pulling apart, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So technically, if you went as far as you could, you would in a way wrap around, right?
Yeah, that's weird to think about.
But
So
then what
think
if you
it's a
wrap around and you're right at the beginning of time?
Oh, it's not just space, because space and time are connected.
Yeah.
So you might not just, travel through space. Wow. Okay.
You're like,
try to get back
you're going to
on.
give Dylan something to think about for the next 2 days.
Okay, so what are the rules to your game of life?
So the rules are that there are no rules.
Oh.
There aren't any.
That's the only rule that can't be broken.
That is the only rule that can't be broken, is that there are no rules.
So that means you can make up the game you want to play with your life, and everyone else can also.
Exactly. But then the big key is like, are you aware that, are you playing your game or are you playing someone else's game?
And then, and the way you do that is you think about how you're spending your time, I guess, and then you decide, am I going towards a goal I want or someone else wants?
No, I think it's more so like we're sitting here right now and without conversation, we are all conforming to a social norm. We're conforming to rules that we're bound by, that we think we're bound by. And we could at this moment decide that we don't want to conform to certain social norms. And I may get up and do something like...
So if I got up right now and took off my pants and did the rest of this interview with no pants,
yeah,
then that's me.
Oh, Raniel.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I am confined to my
good to cut her off before
box.
she's like, then you tear the throat out of an animal. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's good you covered that. But okay, yeah, so we make up our own rules?
We make up our own rules, but most of the time we have been trained to follow what we've been told to do by a select group of people, by our peers, by our ancestors, by generations, by our own experiences of like, ooh, if I touch that, this happens. Therefore, I can't do it. Except when we're primal beings, those rules are very simple, which is if the grass rustles, most likely, depending on whether I'm a tiger or a gazelle, I'm going to react a certain way, A or B. Mm-hmm. But now we don't live under those circumstances. So when we view the rules, we've now created these ornate rules, and it's like the grass rustles at law 1000, 2003, you know? Mm-hmm. Like these numbers are absurd that don't make sense, and we're layering ourselves rules upon rules upon rules, and social media is applying these rules, and digital and, you know, online, and all of these rules have now compounded to where we're walking around just chained and leashed by all these rules that don't apply. You know, we're chained by the offices that we sit in, by the artificial lights, by these ideas of like having to achieve these certain types of success and do these things. And these are all unspoken. Like no one goes around saying like, oh, like you have to do these things. We're just constantly fed this miasma of like, honestly bullshit, you know, and I'll try not to curse the rest of it.
No, it's okay. You curse.
But it's like...
We had Dirk Vermin on before, like, we've seen worse.
These rules aren't true, and they take you away from the real game, which is the game you want to create. The game that you were born to play. That game that if you do believe in a God or a universe and the bigger picture of how love rules us all, and love defines and makes us and pushes us towards this sort of one... I imagine it as like the eye of a needle, right? Like all of us are like moving towards this eye of the needle, and we're all coming through it, and we're just screaming and yelling and enjoying this ride and this journey, and that's magically impossible. That is like the game.
Gotcha. So is your advice to people to just try to be more self-aware and notice if the rules that they're following are the ones they want to or not?
I don't really give advice to people. The last person I gave advice to, she started doing crack cocaine again. So.
Okay.
So what do you live by? What do you think
I'm
you
really good at giving advice. Sorry.
What do you live by?
Oh my God.
And what do you hope that your girls, your daughters, and your
Yeah,
will
you're so
adopt
successful.
from you?
People want advice from you.
But I think imitation's the highest form of flattery. If you tell somebody, "Hey, do this," they might will go one ear out the other. If you embody it and
you
live
don't want to yep do
you
this. You just want to be different in the world and hope that ripples.
I don't think there's no advice to give people, because we have everything we need to get to where we were from.
Oh, like we almost need less.
Yes, it's a falling back into our true self. It's not an outward learning or a skill or an acquiring of something. We were all born perfectly whole. We're all walking gods.
Do you believe in destiny?
Ooh, that's a big one. Do I believe in destiny?
Is your future predetermined? You said it's a lot of slot machines, so I'm going to guess no, but let's see.
I think that a person has a journey. You know, every person that can be born similarly, right? We're bipedal. We usually have 10 fingers, 2 eyes. Our brain works in a certain way. So there's a structure to this humanness that we have. But yet each one of us is so uniquely different, right? Your story, your journey, absolutely. Matt's, yours, mine. I think similarly is destiny. Like there are like points to destiny, right? There are points that we will move towards. but that doesn't necessarily outline what can be truly created within that. And inside of that is free will. Because if I'm in a place where I want to meet, let's say, a soulmate or someone that I want to live the rest of my life with, but if I'm not in that place where I can show up for that soulmate, it may not happen. And that's also on me because I haven't done the work, or I haven't been there. I haven't committed to it.
Because you just recently found a soulmate, right?
I was told by a psychic that my twin flame.
Oh, that sounds like a soulmate. Is that similar? Do you see that as a soulmate, or
She
is that...
said that you can have millions of soulmates, but only one twin flame.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I do. I believe we reincarnate in our current lives.
Oh, really?
Oh, like you've been different people you've interacted with, or you're saying like when you die you'll be the next person born?
I think both. Like I believe that we can reincarnate into different lifetimes, but like in the moment right now, we reincarnate ourselves constantly.
We constantly evolve.
Oh, that's...
What? No, I'm trying to think of... So you're saying like...
You're giving us so much to think about.
Or like...
Per moment,
Yeah.
Evolution.
Per insight.
Because there is something weird about time. Like I do think like, okay, I look at myself 10 years ago and the decisions I made, and it does sort of feel like a different person, or the future me. Are you saying those could be sort of a reincarnation loop I could be going through?
Versions of you.
Because they're time-based?
Well, time is definitely not linear. So your reincarnation could be points of insight or points of...
Although nothing seems more linear than time to me. So what do you mean? It's not linear.
It's not linear. Time
Like I couldn't
is not
imagine
linear.
anything that's more constant and linear. But you're saying it somehow can be bent? Time and space are connected, so there's weirdness to it.
Yeah. Time is not linear. Who you are, who you think are, and who you're becoming, you may have been
Already.
And you're just coming to yourself.
Explain what you just owed at.
I can't. But it makes sense tacitly in my mind.
I'm getting a lot of that too, where I get a feeling of like there's something there, but it's hard to just put the details on it. But yeah, I like the way you're thinking a lot. It's interesting that I might have been making a decision in the future that affected my past, or something that's not linear.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But that's like I'm connected to the universe type stuff.
You not feel connected to the universe?
No, I think so. I feel like I have this image of like a guitar string, and like when you pluck it, like I like the vibration type thoughts. And then I think what I am makes sense. It kind of feels like it started like as a baby. I don't have any solid memories of being like myself because I was just a baby. And then it's like as I became like 5, 6, 7, I was kind of like, oh, am I a thing? So I imagine that like the string is like getting kind of louder until it sort of has its own resonance. And then as you die, I guess you kind of go back into it. But I don't know. That's just the way I feel about. But no, I never feel like there's an entirely separate thing. And I don't think quantum mechanics gives us any information from science that it's that way either. The more we discover things are connected. So I'm going to guess that's the way the universe works somehow. I don't know. What's your thought?
Do you believe you've had many lifetimes?
Lifetimes? That doesn't seem like the right way to phrase it, but it's not totally wrong either, because I think that I am particles that have been like, if you take a breath of air, the probability that one of those molecules was in the lung of anybody from the past, like Benjamin Franklin or whatever, it's likely, because there's just... He exhaled something, and it's like those particles are now in me.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I don't think so. But I love the thought, and I hope it is, because there's a story called The Egg, and it's that you have to live every life. Like time's not a thing, but if you have an entire life where you say abuse someone, you will eventually live that life as the person abused. So there isn't any winning of life or getting more than someone else, because if you have to live every life, you have to suffer for everyone who's ever suffered on earth, and you get the times, I guess, when you were the king or the winner. I hope it works that way, but no, I don't feel like that would be how I would imagine it.
This is the whole thing about people pleasing, and I actually talked to someone about it.
Man, I'm such a people pleaser.
Well, the problem with people pleasing is that it is one of the most I love you so much. It is one of the most
it's gonna be rough
egotistical approaches to humanity.
I agree with that. I would agree.
And the reason why I say
the opposite of that?
No, because you do it for yourself.
It's completely egotistical, because it is the lack of belief that the other person is human enough to hold their own space and have that spiritual aptitude to be their own person and to be dynamic and resilient enough for you to hold your own space. And because you lack the belief in the other person holding that space, you must hold the space for them. You must do these things for them, or you won't as well don't do things for them.
Wow.
I mean, that's why I think on my journey
That's crazy.
Yeah,
to
no, it makes
find
so
much sense then,
healthy
you know?
relationships is it's being able to be okay when my environment is chaotic and knowing that I can do something, but like this other person can handle it on their own. They got this. But that's something that I'm constantly trying, and like I still inherently want to fix things, and because it's control is my form of safety. I mean, it's a lot of our forms of safety.
Yeah, why does it feel so bad if I upset someone in my gut?
Because you don't really believe that they can handle their own space and their own situation.
So it's like
And
doubting their toughness when you try to, it's like coddling too much?
Well, no, I think you're doubting their humanity. You're doubting their ability. Like, it's for me to be like, wow, Dylan drinks so much soy that he's completely like overcome with estrogen hormones. Therefore,
Okay. Great example, yeah.
If I'm a little lost,
Right,
I'm
that
going to
I
go
might
down
have
this
boobs
train.
growing, whatever, okay.
I'm not going to let it go.
That's right, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
So let it go.
And therefore I can't be like, wow, you're showing this thing, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really interest me. And if anything, I feel like it's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to put me down a single train of thoughts instead of being open-minded and curious as to explore many things.
But you also trust that
That
Dylan.
is a cool perspective, yeah.
But you also trust that Dylan, can handle getting a couple jabs, and he's not going to break down.
Yeah,
at
like,
all.
what if you knew I was
And-
crying? What if you knew it really hurt?
Well, then
Like I'm like
that's a
seriously
difference.
crying.
and if it really hurts, then you should thank me.
Oh, even more?
Yeah, because now
For the insult.
I've been able to bring about a conflict for an opportunity and challenge for you to have your own inner insight.
Oh.
That's why I beat people up.
Oh, because you're respecting them.
I do.
Because you believe that everybody can be empowered on their own.
Yeah, conflict isn't a negative thing. Conflict is an opportunity.
It is. Conflict is a part of life.
Is this a philosophy that you picked up as a businesswoman? Is this something when you were trying to say, how do I grow another business and make more money, that you realize people should be handled this way? Or is it something you had that led it? Like, is it causal is it caused you to be a good business person, or did business forge you into this mindset?
I think business is a mechanism for me to like move through reality. Like, it just became a set of a toolbox that I can play with my reality.
Oh, back to your gamification of
So learning, understanding people is a main component of, I think, truly being good at business, because business is, at the end of the day, two human beings doing a transaction and me taking a cut of that.
Okay. So when you imagine your business very soon as an $800 million behemoth, that's just a toy for you to now change the world with. You're not even thinking like that's the exit where I retire. And
I think for me, the reason why I want to do the things that I do with my business and I want to see it is because I've been told it can't be done. I've been told it can't be done by me.
oh, you're powered by haters? Or it's not that simple?
You love challenges.
I love
you wanna
challenges.
Overcome.
I like winning.
At the game you make up.
At the game that I make up, and I've suffered so much. I've been brought to my knees. I've almost thrown in the towel so many times over so many situations, but I've always gotten back up. And when I came back up, I came back louder and stronger and more fierce, and I've dominated more.
You're a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Oh my gosh, you're a
Dude, that is
phoenix?
awesome.
Oh, that's like a reincarnation
It is a
character too. Yeah.
reincarnation. We have so many reincarnations in our life if we embrace it.
That's like when you get knocked down and come back, that's a little bit of reincarnation. Like you broke one version of you.
Yeah,
You
who
forged
I
something
come back
new.
as, like that deep sense of knowingness. I mean, if someone came up to me and like threw some jokes my way, like I'd laugh. But like maybe 18-year-old Juanny would be hurt, because it is a reincarnation. Like the experiences I've had, who I am now, is not the same person who I was like 10 years ago,
And maybe
or
you
who I
needed to
was
go
a week
through
ago.
that. Would you go back in time and tell your 18-year-old version advice, or do you think you'd leave her alone so she could learn all the same lessons again?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I would Tell her to invest in Apple.
So she had more money to play with
And I would tell her to have a lot more sex. Yeah.
Or just those 2 pieces of advice? And then you're out?
Everything else was pretty fun.
Yeah.
How else are you going to learn?
Yeah.
So, Juanny, why coffee?
Coffee has a special place in my heart. For me, I didn't have many safe spaces growing up. And I always felt safe in coffee houses and in cafes.
I read somewhere, I think between 2018, 2020, that there was about 37,000 and maybe 200 and some coffee houses around the U.S.
There are some fundamental numbers that do stand out, which is I'm the only female minority-owned coffee roasting brand in the Midwest and the West Coast.
Wow. Is it really?
Impressive.
Why do you think that is?
That's surprising.
Because coffee is heavily white and male.
You mean like the rest
Like
of the
Dylan?
country?
Like the guys I like to date. So that's why I got into coffee.
That's hilarious.
So good.
Come find me, boys.
You just found your soulmate. You're good now.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Well, it's just reincarnate. That's fine.
But being in that obviously drives a lot of competition. So what do you do to stay ahead of the game?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of competition, but I think more so, it's knowing what your customers don't know that they need.
How has that changed for you over the decade? I mean,
What do we know? We need safety, right? Is that the big goal? Because you said you felt safe at coffee houses. So is
Well,
that
that's
what
my
you always
personal
want?
experience.
Oh.
Is that I felt safe going to coffee houses.
But is that the thing that we need that we don't know we need?
I think what people need now more than anything is a ability to connect with another person that is genuine and authentic, but not in a way that would scare them at a depth that's people are uncomfortable being at.
Is that the
And-
secret goal of your coffee shops? To help people meet each other?
Yes.
And have those kind of relationships?
I mean, if you look at data says apart from women being introduced by a friend to a man, cafes are the second most approachable place for them where they'd like to be approached.
Dang.
Okay. That's good.
I know where I'm going.
Matt's single. Yeah.
Yeah,
To mothership we go.
there you go. But when they ask the same set of questions to men, cafes came in 5th. So men are not
really?
aware that women want to be approached in cafes.
Where do men think they should meet women?
They probably thought like bar or something.
Yeah, probably bar.
But that makes sense. Coffee shops is a place where you're, you
like,
feel
is there
very
some kind of stat?
at
Okay.
home, at peace.
Art classes, co-ed sports teams. Co-ed sports team? Is that how you'd want to be approached?
No, this is not. I don't think this
No.
is.
Okay.
I've done a lot of sports and I have never been approached.
Because
like
you
the
were
last
just like, you
place.
were the fierce alpha. You're the fierce alpha.
What can people learn from your dating experiences?
What people can learn from dating experience is that if you have a checklist, you will get everything on your checklist and you will meet the person that has everything on your checklist.
Do you have a
And
mental checklist of the things you want out of a guy?
no, like a
Well,
written
physical
checklist.
Oh, you could print it out.
Oh yeah, you could print it out. Like one of my best friends made me do a checklist, and then my girlfriend showed me her checklist, and I was like so embarrassed because on my checklist is like I wrote I want a guy with a truck. Because trucks are really great,
Yeah,
and I
move
don't
stuff
have
around.
one.
Yeah, that's great.
You're practical.
That's awesome.
So
How many items are on it? Is it a long list?
I had like 74.
74.
I was
That's
thinking
good.
like maybe a dozen at most.
Well, what
How
kind of
many
thing
is
did
that?
your girlfriends have?
I mean, they had stuff like I don't know, like season to my soul, and
Oh,
and
what?
has like
Easy to check off, too vague.
like really deep and like, and I was just like, I want a dude who has a pickup truck.
And he's not a 2 on that one chart of yours. What's that chart you almost?
Oh, Enneagram.
Yeah, and you don't date 2s on Enneagrams.
I don't date 3s.
Oh, you don't date 3s.
I don't
Stay away
date-
from 3s.
I stay away from 3s. I've had bad experience from dating guys who are 3s.
Oh, but
What
if
would we
someone-
say are 3s?
Yeah, if I came up,
Kim, what would we
what
say?
advice would you give to a 3 to find happiness?
A 3, it's move beyond the persona you project and understand that you are enough in the world.
Good advice for threes out
Let's
there.
read
Maybe
the
that
3
should be our
Enneagram.
And
Matt, can you read a 3 Enneagram
Okay.
so we know? who
Threes
to-
want to be successful and admired by other people, and they're very conscious of their public image. Type 3s fear failure and not being seen as valuable by other people. Read more about 3s.
Okay, that's probably enough.
That defining your self-worth by other people is not the way to.
That does seem like a never-ending source of stress if you just constantly care about what people think.
We all have that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
we
been there
need that
before, for
to
sure.
evolve. I get that. I mean, there's portions of that you want to take into life, but you can't have that be your whole
Yeah, too much.
objective. You can't have that be your end
because
game.
if you think about our ancestors, if they were if they were too unwilling to do what the group wanted, they wouldn't help the group survive. So they probably would have been isolated, and isolation was probably death. So is there some level of 3 that you think is healthy?
except there is a certain portion of people inside of this group that was isolated on purpose. Remember, the shaman was isolated on purpose.
Okay, tell me. No, who's the
So-
shaman? I don't.
So the shaman or the oracle or the witch would be found as a young child, or either selected and turned into a shaman through different rituals or difficult experiences, or they were selected.
Oh, a shaman's like someone who has a lot of knowledge.
A shaman has a lot of knowledge, but also more so like they are the conduit to the other world.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So the group would always need a shaman of some sort. It's separate from the leader. There would be the actual public leader, which would lead the tribe. And then the shaman would be the conduit to the other world, would be the medicine man or the woman, the healer. They would, but not only heal you physically, they will heal you emotionally, mentally, as well as spiritually.
Okay, and we're thinking of we're talking about like 100,000 years ago, a tribe before modern society. You're
Yeah.
saying this is how they probably were arranged?
Yeah, or even, not even 100,000 years ago, like 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 1,000 years. There were many shamans, and the shaman was an important part of the tribe, but could not live with the tribe. They had to be separated from the tribe, but they weren't
And do you think
killed
shamans
off.
exist today on Earth?
Oh, they do,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I'm half Ecuadorian. You go into the Amazon, there's still that tribal lifestyle that goes on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But just to the other world kind of threw me off. So you're saying that they are communicating in a way that wouldn't be
It's like
generally accepted as logical?
Well,
You're saying
you
is
know,
it a little more spiritual of a
Go ahead.
conversation?
No, you
No, I
don't.
was going to say, Dylan, I feel like in a lot of ways, because we step onto your podcast, that a lot of this reality is defined by how you perceive stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be really open to it, so tell me.
I just think that the other world isn't really that otherworldly. I think it's right here, always. That expression of it is in the here and now.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot about, and tell me if I'm off track here, but I think in my mind and Raynell's mind and your mind, there's a certain different reality happening because we grew up different, we notice different things. Is that how you imagine a shaman, is somebody who's just seeing it much more differently than the rest of the tribe? Is that how their spirit, is that how they're communicating in a way that's different? Or is there something bigger going on? Like, are we talking about like opening up a portal to another dimension type? I'm wondering, like, how far are you trying to say the shaman is getting knowledge from?
I think it's a mixture of both. You have people who live in the tribe day to day, right? They have the normal set of circumstances that we all have to deal with, which is waking up, finding food,
Yeah.
the travails of love, living
sure.
life. But somewhere along the line, just like there's a primalness to our physicality, there's a primalness to our spirituality as well.
Oh, okay.
And there needs to be a
that.
connectedness to that. And that shaman is the conduit that allows, when that needs to show up or needs to be redirected or comes out as a mental disease, right? Like we saw in those videos earlier of people like freaking out in the elevator, freaking out about smoking. It's a freak out, not because of what the other person is doing. The other person is just like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's in their deep sense of
it was
like
something else that was going on.
yeah, like they're so misaligned from their true self, and the shaman is really good at bringing them back into
Gotcha.
line.
There is characteristics that those animals kind of have that you identify with at different times, right? Is that the best way to think about it?
Um,
Or you just like you described yourself as a tiger, so I was like, maybe you could just expand on just your interpretation of that.
We went to that frequency meditation, and then you said that you had some really deep.
Yeah, so we went to Area 15 and we went to a breathwork class by frequency, and I got into a deep state of meditation and I started having visions. The visions were physically brought on by my body fighting itself. There was a part of me that didn't want to get into this deep state, and it showed up as like massive
I totally
anxiety.
identify with that, yeah. With hypnotism, I've had that before, so I know that resonates with me.
Yeah, so it's like it was my body was fighting, and I felt the anxiety, and instead of fighting against the anxiety or fearing it, because the feeling of anxiety is horrible, I welcomed it, and I felt that it was a way for my skin to sort of break apart, if that makes sense. If like there was this container of my identity of who I was as a structure, the anxiety was actually me trying to push past that skin. So that idea or that construct. And as I was pushing past it, I felt my back starting to burn. And what was coming outside of my back were wings that were growing out, and it was pushing past anxiety. And as it was coming out, I fell into a deeper state of meditation.
Wow.
Where I was forgetting who I was, and I just actually started floating upwards. And then I started falling, like I was going to fall to the ground. And right then, before I hit the ground, my wings expanded and I started flying through the sky.
Oh, do you think it's like at the moment when you think everything's the worst is when you grow your wings, kind of?
I think it's a primal response. We as humans, the reason why we do suffer is because in the suffering, we truly find ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, most of the people I really like to be around and I've learned a lot from, they haven't had life easy. They've usually gone through something, and it's ironic because nobody wants to wish bad things on people, but sometimes, they do. They grow into people who change the world for the better.
Why don't we want to wish bad things on people? Why do we say things are bad to begin with?
Because,
why do we define things as bad?
That's true. No, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I guess that is kind of my bias, saying like, oh, you shouldn't have to suffer through that, when really that's what you need to grow.
We have a fear, but is it truly implicit? Like, is this fear a response that you were born with, or is this a response that you're primed to have?
Probably learned from experience,
from peers,
which isn't always it's like a cultural thing.
So then, like, if we're taught to have this response of fear, then that means everywhere we step has to be a situation where you can't fear.
Yeah.
So then how many places can you step towards?
None. If we're living in a fearful place, if we live with a fearful lens.
Actually, I would love to hear your thoughts on anxiety, because you described it before the wings came out. But anxiety is something I've had in my life, but everybody is having it now. It's growing like crazy, especially in like a really younger generation. Like, do you have any thoughts on like why it's on the rise and like what people should do about it? And what benefit did anxiety have for our ancestors? Like, why does it even exist?
Anxiety is the ego growing as a cancer. And anxiety is this belief that we've been told that the whole world can be padded.
To be what?
To be padded.
Oh, padded. Like to be safe. The whole world shouldn't be safe.
It's the idea that we're raised to believe that the whole world is padded. It's like
like we can control all of it.
But it seems like the world's safer now. In theory, the world's safer now than it used to be. I mean, snakes and tigers.
You just fed your anxiety.
I did?
Yeah.
How? Why? Well, I don't want to do that.
You just said like
in theory
that the world is safer than it.
Well, just statistically, we're not going to get eaten. But I guess maybe. I mean, people like longevity, like just straight statistics. Like people are living longer than they used to.
Yeah, you're just feeding your anxiety again.
Oh.
Because you're not living in the present moment and just being okay with this and in the here and now.
Is that true, what Raynell said?
It is.
That's why I fed it?
My view on why we're so anxious is that we're so focused on things that we can control instead of actually just being present enough to feel however we're feeling and either letting it pass or working through it, things that really aren't really relevant to this moment.
So, is anxiety healthy, do you think?
I think there's a level of anxiety that's healthy, but what isn't
So too little
What
anxiety
isn't healthy
unhealthy.
to me is giving into your anxiety and not finding a way to release this frenetic energy.
Well, this is how you set up anxiety. You say, well, the world is a safer place than it was previously. The world should be safer. The world is defined as safer. And then you go, so I am safe. Except, like you mentioned, we can't correlate our safety into the future or into the past. We can only correlate our safety in the present moment. And the present moment, you don't know. And that's the point. You're not supposed to know. And you're supposed to be okay with that. But because you have this idea that it should be safe and all these shoulds and the world needs to be set up a certain way, and we're
the
taught
expectation, maybe, okay, that's why you're saying I fed myself anxiety, because I just set expectations higher, and if life doesn't meet those, then anxiety is kind of that.
Well, life can't meet it, because in the present moment, I could get up right now and stab you.
Yeah, okay.
We saw that printer situation. It could happen.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Those people were like stunned, and they couldn't move. They couldn't defend themselves. They were just completely stunned. And
Point.
That's interesting, yeah. Whereas if maybe they had a little bit more of your mentality, they might have been quicker to just handle that change.
I would have been popping some popcorn
Yeah.
and enjoying myself. You know, I'd be like, finally.
No.
Finally something interesting in this office.
Yeah, you know?
How do you find balance? I mean, in a day and age where there's a bidding war for our attention, how do you decide what goes to business, what goes to family, what goes to yourself? How do you find time?
You know, that's a very difficult thing to balance. And I think that...
Do you even care about balance? You seem like you might be someone who's like, just go hard and then go hard and then go hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah, maybe you don't need balance.
Yeah. Or do you even, or if you do care about balance.
The word balance is tricky, right? Because then we have to define what balance is. I do approach life as all in. Like,
Okay.
I just completely throw myself into life. The only time I find imbalance is when I get stuck or there's a hiccup of like, I'm overwhelmed. But I'm like, well, why am I overwhelmed? And I'm like, well, I feel overwhelmed because of these outer circumstances. And I was like, well, in this present moment, what is there to be overwhelmed with? I'm breathing and I'm in the moment, I'm meeting it. And I just need to be here in this moment. And then I find that I get myself in balance. But in terms of work, family, and friends, like, to put it simply, like, you know, all my friends will say it, like, everyone starts down here with me. And then there's very few that get up to here. And those people get most of my energy. And then everyone else gets very little in progressive to where there's nothing. Like, I've been in meetings where I don't like what the other person's saying and I'll get up and walk away.
Because you'd rather just keep because you care about your time and attention being focused on you like having a smaller group of friends, but more, I guess, loyal and trustworthy and deeper connections.
It's very intuitive.
It's more
you know, it's
satisfying.
like, it feels like bathing in sunlight. It feels good.
So would you rather have dinner with like a friend and have a good conversation, or stand up at a big conference and have like hundreds of thousands of people applauding you?
Dinner with my friend.
What would you...
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think it's a more satisfying lifestyle, but proportionally it's not, as many people by far. So
But who cares?
it's not as
But
much
why,
overall admiration for your ego.
But
That's why you're not
does
a
the
3.
admiration of 100,000 people even, like, I don't even, like,
You don't even care. It's not even anything
it's not
to you.
a balancing. Like, it's like dinner with a friend or maybe $10 million. Then I'd be like, the people who I don't fucking care. I don't know them.
Yeah.
Admiration. That's a tricky one, right? It's like, I think the realization I had is that I'm the greatest love of my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, okay.
I realized that when the men in my life, including my father, were just aspects of myself, I had a vision where it was a row of men going into eternity. And it started with my father and all these guys I've dated. And I think my father is sort of like the masculine, like, representation of all of them, right? And that they were just standing there and admiring me, but it was actually me looking into a mirror admiring myself.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Okay.
So my relationships with men, to be loved by a man, is actually me loving myself.
And that's what you really needed. It was not out there. It was actually already inside you.
That started a journey where 2 years later, and this is part of that reincarnation, is when I went, that seed was planted and I got to harvest it 2 years later when I went, oh, I'm the greatest love of my life. And truly feeling in my body of this sense of like satisfaction and not having to cast that outward to bring it back in, but just to keep that love here.
Yeah. So when you found the love of your life, you don't think of it as somebody that was floating out there and then you found them. It was something you already had inside you and that person's like nurturing it or something?
They're a mirror of it.
Yeah, a mirror. Okay.
It's like there's so much. He's like, I'm going to have to rewatch this.
I know.
He's like, this episode
okay.
changed my life. I actually remember you telling me about how you used the Bumble platform or a dating app platform and used your logo or your marketing.
Yeah. So initially when I first went on Bumble a couple years ago,
Guerrilla marketing.
I hid my brand. And when I came back on this time, I realized that this was a free platform full of very earnest and thirsty men where I could represent my brand. So whether they wanted to meet me there or potentially take a date somewhere, now they know they could bring them to Mothership Coffee Roasters.
Right.
Wow, that is ingenious.
Genius.
So I actually have even though
you're no longer on any dating apps, but
I have it still live. So every day or so I get like 2 or 3 likes and it keeps adding up, but I don't go on Bumble, but I did meet someone on Bumble that I really
I would have known that you did it for
don't you
marketing.
see people at your coffee shop?
I hope so. I I try to see, I'm like, oh, is that the guy? Have I seen him on Bumble?
And they all know you. They're like, I've seen it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had an acquaintance text me and he goes, when you see your friend on a dating app, do you swipe left or right? And I was like, oh, it's just a free marketing tool. I'm sorry.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I would encourage everybody to check out your coffee shops, Mothership. They're all over Las Vegas. Eventually, they'll be buying out Starbucks coming soon.
Oh, yeah.
And anything else? Is there anything else you want to throw out there, like a place people, like website or...
You can find us on Instagram as well as www.mothershipcoffee.com.
All right. Thank you so much. And Raniel, thank you. Matt, thank you. Appreciate you guys coming out and sharing your stories.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.